Hi, I'm Tom Spiegel with the Spiegel Law Firm, where we help people who have been wrongfully fired or afraid that they might be. Today, I want to talk to you about what it means legally for the FDA to have approved fully the Pfizer vaccine. As you may know, the vaccines that were developed to treat COVID were initially allowed to go into effect under an emergency authorization. The FDA generally, which is the Food and Drug Administration, the federal agency that has responsibility for monitoring vaccines and other drugs and devices, the FDA generally goes through a lengthy approval process, a lengthy study process before they will finally approve something as a medical device or a vaccine. EUAs, or emergency use authorization, are.
Go ahead and roll that back. Just start with EUAs, or emergency use authorization.
EUAs, or emergency use authorization, allows the FDA to greenlight the use, in this case, of a vaccine before that formal process is complete because there is a public health emergency, which clearly COVID was. Now, to be clear, the types of vaccines that were used or being used for COVID have been the subject of study for years. From the SARS vaccine way back. This is not a new class of vaccines. However, these specific vaccines had not until recently been through this full process. So in some instances, people were, perhaps understandably, reluctant to take a vaccine or get a vaccine that had not been fully approved, because in their minds, there was some degree of danger because the FDA hadn't fully looked at it. And there were some test cases early on where employers were having vaccine mandates, requiring employees to be vaccinated to come to work. There were some test cases earlier on where the employees tried to raise that issue. They said, even assuming the employer has the right to enforce this vaccine mandate, they don't have the right when it's under an EUA. They have to wait till full FDA approval. And the court that considered it said no dice, that it's well established that even under an EUA in a public health emergency, an employer has broad latitude to require vaccines and other kinds of public health measures to protect other employees. And so the employees lost in those situations. Now, obviously, the Pfizer vaccine, as the time of this recording, has received full authorization. So the FDA has done its full panoply of tests now and said, we give this our seal of approval. It becomes even more difficult for employees to make that argument that vaccines are somehow unlawful. It does make a difference mentally for employees and employers. Employees now have peace of mind that they can get a vaccine that has been fully authorized. Employers can take comfort in the fact that this fully authorized vaccine is very unlikely to cause health problems in their employees if they require a vaccine. So for that reason, once full authorization was given, we saw a lot more employers coming out with vaccine mandates. That doesn't mean, however, that there are no protections for people, employees in particular, relating to vaccines. If you're covered by the Americans with Disabilities Act, you have some physical ailment such that getting the vaccine could harm you, and you have a physician that can attest to that, and there certainly are those cases, then an employer cannot require you in that instance to get the vaccine. They have to give you a reasonable accommodation, perhaps allowing you to work remotely, perhaps requiring testing, because you're protected under the ADA, because you have some kind of underlying condition. Now, understand that does not mean that it makes you nervous to take the vaccine. That's not going to be covered under the ADA. I'm talking about if you have some kind of autoimmune disease, some kind of underlying chronic condition that makes it that a doctor is going to say you should not get the vaccine. There are some proper exemptions for religious freedom. So if you have a religious objection to that, there in some instances that can be a carve out for vaccine mandates. But in broad strokes, employers have the ability to require vaccine mandates. Full authorization just makes that easier.